This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Allison Athey, the Product Marketing Manager at Volvo Trucks North America. Welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. This is even more unscripted than normal. We're going to flip the script again, and I'm going to interview Jason Morgan, who's now the content director. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk today, Jason.
No, always great to be a guest on my own show. I appreciate you having me. This is always fun. I got to say, I do, if I'm being completely honest, I always get a little nervous when we hit record, and I do every one of these. But this kind of one, we've done it before, and I get extra nervous for this. I don't know how you all are on the other side that I'm on right now, but I appreciate it. So happy to talk.
Oh, this is so exciting. This is what I've waited for all year.
The hand rubbing.
So you know what it feels like.
Triple nervous. Yeah, triple nervous now.
You'll be fine. You're a pro.
Okay.
So let's start with the first question. So,
All right.
we're keeping it big picture today. What do you think is the trucking industry's, general perception towards sustainability? Do you see the beginning of a paradigm shift?
I'm of two minds on this question. Like the technology geek optimist part of me would want to be like, yeah, this is going to change the world, and we're going to go change the world, and it's going to be fantastic, and electric trucks and hydrogen trucks will just take over the world immediately, and you flip a switch and it's different. On the other hand, though, I think the industry as a whole, let me back up, I guess, because I think what we're really seeing is not unlike any other technology that we've seen grow over the past couple of years. It's just at a larger scale, right? I mean, you look at AMTs, even yourself on the iShift, right? When that first came out, it was slower, and then it picked up, and all of a sudden, after a couple of years, I feel like maybe even quicker, a year or two, we were at 70% orders, 80% orders, 90% orders, and now I don't even know if you're still making manual highway trucks over there. I assume you are to some degree, but it's probably pretty small. I think what we're seeing is just the beginning of technology adoption, right? I think that we have the early adopters, and it will just continue to grow as the technology improves and costs come down, and it'll get adopted. I think the rate at which we're adopting, even the AMT example, you look at some other technologies, like you have your ADAS system with the steering and the adaptive cruise and all that. I think that's picking up faster than even AMTs did, right? I think some of the technology adverse feeling is moving away from our industry, and people are welcoming new technologies a little bit more. I think we're seeing that on the electric truck side because people have interest. But I think the realist in me is just looking at it as this is another just grander scale of technology adoption that we'll see over the next couple of years and into the next couple of decades.
No, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the pace of change is really faster than ever before. Though to me, electric and some of this, it feels a little different than in the past. I think because everybody is going towards it, and to me, it's very interesting. It feels a little grassroots too. There's at least some of the feeling is there's more interest than we've had in things like this in the past. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and it's an exciting time. So how do you regard the trucking industry's change based on customers' increasing demands for decarbonized transportation? Corporations' own sustainability agendas and targets, such as CO2 reductions and such. That's a mouthful of a question there.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot going on there. Just anecdotally, in a lot of conversations I have, the narrative has been, especially with a lot of big fleets, and even getting in some of the medium-sized fleets, is that sustainability used to be the last thing they talked about at a meeting, as they kind of throw, before they all walked out the door and got back to work. What are we doing on sustainability? Over the past year, maybe year and a half, the story has been it's the first thing they talk about now, at least anecdotally, from conversations I have. It is on top of their minds. I mean, you all have made a number of announcements with a slew of different customers across the country with the VNR Electric here, pretty much at every event that we had here in the fall, every event. Peter was up there, one of the hardest working people at the trade show circuit this year, with another customer announcement, and it was a different customer in a different area approaching it differently, right? So I think that trucking companies are, you still have the demographic of the large trucking companies are taking responsibility and working towards sustainability and decarbonization, and mid-sized to smaller fleets are just trying to make ends meet, and they'll catch up with everybody once, again, technology adoption, costs come down, they'll follow what the big players are doing.
Oh, and I think you've got some really good points to it. It's what really just struck me is how you mentioned, everybody's approaching it differently because everybody's business is a little bit different based on their needs and what they're doing and how they want to be more sustainable.
Right.
But it's a cool time to be in trucking. We've got all these trends really just picking up and taking off. But of course, people are still going to buy diesel in the future, diesel trucks. Yep. But which demands and expectations do you think customers are going to put on that new diesel technology and more fuel efficient trucks? What do you really see happening in that space?
Right. I'm gonna cheat and steal talking points from Peter and Johan, because I talked to them not too long ago, and we had a great story with them where we kind of talk about this kind of stuff of, diesel still, you look at the next 10 years even, right? I know that you all have a goal of I think it's 2040, right, of carbon neutral product lineup, right, offering to the market. I know a couple other OEMs have jumped in with similar timeframes. Diesel will still be the way everything is going. The fun thing is, it's not too different. We've always talked about fuel efficiency. It's always been the number one thing that we've talked about with diesel engines. I think what, especially when I'm talking with people and putting together content for fleet equipment, I want to get home. I want to get the point home that fuel efficiency, still focus on it, but get your decarbonization credits. Because if you, internally or whatever you're doing with your stakeholders, because if you buy new trucks, and I know that you all, the fun part is that you all say it's, X percentage more fuel efficient than our last best truck, but I'm not replacing as a fleet my last best truck or my most recent best truck. I'm replacing the oldest truck, so the gains are like exponential, right? That means I'm burning less fuel. I decarbonize. Yay, congratulations, go sustainability, right? I moved in the right direction. So even if a fleet isn't jumping into electric trucks right now because they're not ready and the technology isn't ready for their application, even ordering, an extra truck or shortening turn times on your life cycles or something like that is still decarbonization. You reap the fuel efficiency benefits, you still get all your ROI, but hey, there's some sort of wacky calculation. We have it in fleet equipment somewhere of how that, X amount of fuel not burned equals X, carbon emissions reduction. So get credit for that and talk about it in terms of sustainability and not just fuel efficiency, because once you get to the electrification stuff, it'll be more apples to apples, I think.
Yeah, and no, you're right. It's changing. It's not just fuel efficiency, it's sustainability, decarbonization, and we all live on the same planet. So in the end, it's good for everybody to be cleaner and more fuel efficient. And even with the rising price of fuel that's rapidly going up and in inflation and everything, to be more fuel efficient, is a positive.
Sorry, I got to ask a question. It's just my nature. I got to jump in real quick. Are you seeing that on your side when you're talking with customers? I know fuel efficiency. We talked probably earlier this year too about fuel efficiency and aerodynamics and the impacts there too. But is the decarbonization sustainability conversation creeping into diesel, or is it still fuel efficiency? It is. You're seeing it too.
It's I'm seeing it creep in. Based on how certain customers, fleets have different targets and how they're measuring their targets. So that's how they want to talk about it. That's how we'll talk about it, right? So we can change the conversation based on what they need to help support their business, because everybody handles it a little differently. But yes, seen it more and more and more, so right. Much so that I've made my cheat sheet. This is this, and to make it a little easier.
Well, and that's a great point because we broad brush it, but yeah, you need to give fleets the ammo to go get their purchase approved inside their company, and if their company is focused on sustainability, diesel still plays a role in that. So that's an awesome point.
Yeah, and it's cool how fast that change is actually coming. It took me by surprise. I thought it'd be a one-off
Really?
question here or there, and over and
Right.
over and over.
Wow.
So, all right, this is a really fun question. Let's see if I can stump you. All right, what do you think, the biggest concerns are for the trucking industry when it comes to electromobility and other zero emission technologies such as fuel cell?
Yeah, I think this is an easy one. The answer is money. The money is the problem. It's always the cause and answer to every problem. Honestly, it's funny internally here. So Fleet Equipment is part of a larger media company, and they do automotive stuff, right? And a lot of automotive aftermarket, and they talk EVs. And the EV story is different in the commercial world because as soon as it makes monetary sense, yeah, great, okay, go for it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, go for it. If I have the money, the problem is, I think the costs up front right now are just so large. So if one of the cool things that ACT Expo, people were talking about, okay, well, where's the funding come from, right? Who are some of the other, if I'm going to be progressive, who are the other progressive players? Utility companies, clean air foundations, local, people that want to make this happen. Who else has skin in this game that can help me subsidize some of this stuff, so that I can put it, because it's not just buying an electric tractor. You all know that. I mean, you're partnering, and the cool thing was to see you're partnering with a lot of different names, right? I mean, I know you had an announcement here recently with Amply, working with them on charging infrastructure and management. Tritium charging infrastructure, I've talked with them. I know they've worked with you all. So I think we're getting over. I think we're getting over the shock of what it means to do it. I think we're getting over the initial range questions because, the trucks that you all are putting out, the rest of the industry is putting out. I think the Run on Less Electric program from NACFE was awesome and generated a ton of great data that can get over some range anxiety for the applications that fix it. Now it's just, okay, I need the money. To your point.
I need the money, and I need the infrastructure. That infrastructure is really it's a whole picture you've got to address that to solve, because we can build an electric truck, but if you can't charge it, it's not so useful.
I know. Well, what are you? I mean, is the cool thing is though, if you can get over that, and really, again, I don't know, I still see it comes down to money, because if I have an application where the trucks return the base and I can just charge it there, then all I got to do is really just plunk down the cash and work with my utility. I mean, I'm simplifying it. It's a giant headache, but with the fleets that you work, does that challenge go away, or does that anxiety over increased infrastructure go away once they have their own and they're running the trucks and they're seeing, hey, I can make this work? Or do they still wonder, like, oh man, okay, in 10, 15 years when I'm going to grow this, I need more?
No, I mean, I think it's a learning process, right? Because once you've got, say, the chargers, then it's based on where you are, how electric is billed, whether you're peak, off peak, on peak. I think it's a learning experience then to see how to best optimize it. But I think you're right. It comes down to the money, and of course the sustainability going hand in hand to find the solution for what's needed, because many of them are, there's different reasons this is being done. But I think you've I like how you flipped it twice back to me now.
Sorry, it's just ingrained, and I don't know, your take is more interesting than my take, so I'd rather hear that. But all right, what else we have? What do you got?
All right, finally, we continue to read these stories about the trucking industry struggling to attract and retain competencies and the employees, things like that. Do you think with the technology shift, electric trucks, increased connectivity, AI, all of that will be an enabler to diversify and attract a broader base, and a broader workforce, demographically, and improved gender mix in all of it?
Right. I think so. Let me back. I'm gonna steal more talking about points because I mentioned Athey. I talked to Mike Roth earlier this week about Run on Less Electric, and one of his takeaways was that drivers love electric trucks. Like, and you'd think that wouldn't be the case. I mean, drivers fairly or unfairly get painted with a broad brush of they don't like new technology. Like, and there's a driver shortage and driver retention is awful. But he said across all the fleets they worked with and all the different OEMs they work with, drivers just loved it. They love getting in them. They love driving them. They're quieter and they're cool. I've driven them too. They are very cool.
They're fun. Like, I don't know how to, it was fun.
Well, and it's weird because you don't, I mean, look, I'm not a CLD driver, right? I've only driven in kind of controlled areas, but even with AMTs, there was a level of like, oh, this feels more like a pickup truck than a Class 8 truck. You didn't really notice. You noticed the pull of the load and the weight of the load and the feel of the truck, but you all made it really easy to drive it so that even even a basic idiot like myself could get in and still keep it on the road. Electric trucks even just go a step further. Like it's almost like a sports car to some degree where you're pulling a giant load and all of a sudden you're up at 70 and you're like, oh, I did not know I was going that fast. I better pull this back. The torque is crazy, acceleration is crazy. You got to watch out for it because it surprises you and it's just so quiet. So, I think that's one example where that could have a huge impact on driver retention and recruitment. When new trucks were coming out, gosh, I guess 4 years ago now, like you all refreshed your lineup. I saw trucking companies advertising that we put the newest trucks back in our lineup and you can drive the newest and greatest. We talk about driver comfort and driver retention features. I think that will be a huge one. The buzz about automated driving is growing. I think that one might be a little bit more of a challenge. Again, it's all just framing, right? Once it's, the parallel is drawn to like autopilot in the airline industry. And this is my personal opinion, my only personal opinion, is that even if we have self-driving trucks, you're still going to need a person. People like to work with people. The truck might drive itself from point A to point B, but then there's got to be people there to just do the person thing. Like people like doing people stuff and working together.
Yeah, you've got to have for some of that. Oh, I have got to ask. I'm sure you've experienced this. I think many people have now. When you're driving your car down the road and you look over, and there's somebody's got one of those vehicles that has that, and their car is driving when they have their no hands on the steering wheel. What do you do? Do you let them or do you pass them? Do you try to fall behind them? How do you react today when you see somebody actively next to you like that? I'm just curious.
Again, going back to like my optimistic technology forward thinking, I prefer it because I prefer seeing someone like that because the alternative is looking over and seeing an idiot on their cell phone. And like weaving out, like this is just the world we live in. You see down the other lane, someone going, and they go, oh, sorry, I got to correct. Just let the technology do it. It won't get tired. It won't get distracted. It won't have all this other stuff that people are doing. We've seen, increases in distracted driving and those kind of effects. So honestly, it sounds terrible. I trust technology more than I trust people. So by all means, if we're at the point where you're not even, even in trucks, you're not sitting. I look over and I don't even see a person there and they're just like in the sleeper getting some rest and that truck is just totally fine. Great. Good. Because the alternative was a guy on his phone. Sorry, I don't know. What do you think? Is it weird for you? I mean, you're making these systems. How do you bring this conversation?
And I've spent the time in some of the trucks that we're developing that do things like that. It's I think overall, yes, it's absolutely the right step, but I think it's of course getting the public to feel safe and accept that. That's always the big step to overcome. And by the way, as you were talking about all of this, all I could think of in my mind was Rise of the Machines.
Right. Yeah. No, I did steal Terminator lines there. That was a reference. I was referencing Terminator 2. But and I do want to back up because I did want to clarify that when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about other automotive people on the road. Truck drivers are professionals. They handle it. I trust a truck way more than I trust, the SUV I've seen swerving around in my rearview mirror trying to pass everyone on the highway, right? It's not the trucks I'm worried about. It's all the crazies. I don't think you rarely see a truck driver on their phone. You never see it.
Oh no, they're professional.
That's what they're doing. It's everybody else. So yeah, just go for it. You know what I mean? Take it all out of all these crazies. But yeah, that was very good. You did catch the Terminator
reference.
I
had
to no, there's one in every fleet story, so enjoy looking for it.
Go find in the Easter egg. That's
right. You think I'm joking, but
well, that was all the questions that I had for you today. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? I appreciate you taking this time.
No, I appreciate talking with you. I did want to go back because I stopped myself. Look, I waited till the middle questions to jump in with a question, but I did want to get your view from, I think the first question you asked me something about just the general view of, is this a paradigm shift or is this just a small sliver of the market? Because, some of the counterpoints are, we've been down this road before to some degree with natural gas. What's your seat from Volvo? I mean, you've had a huge year relatively with the VNR electric. What's your feeling?
I do think that with any new technology, there's a time factor that it's going to take time, but I think this is different. I think we're heading to that paradigm shift. And I started in the trucking industry in 2008, so there was a lot going on then as well. And this, it feels different, right? The industry as a whole, we're putting products out there at a faster pace to support this. Yeah, I think it's being adopted at a strong pace too. Everybody's investing in it as a whole, and I think yes, it's going to take time, but I do think it's different, and this is going to be the future for us. And I think it's exciting too, with the pace of change of technology faster, more people are willing and ready to accept, right? You talked about they're picking up the Volvo active driver assist system, the AMTs, all of those I think we're going to follow in a same path towards acceptance. Since this is a little larger than something like that, it'll still be a little slower, but yeah, that's and part of that's Volvo's view, but that's also my personal opinion as well. That's how I truly feel that.
Yep.
I truly feel that, and it makes me enjoy working in the trucking industry even more. It's such a cool time to be in this space. We're creating the future together, basically.
Right. No, I agree. It's awesome. And it's always awesome to talk with you. This was a blast. Thank you so much for doing this. You are going to get a call from my publisher after this goes up and with a job offer, I'm sure. I will be out of a job and you can just take mine. You do a fantastic job.
I will say, I think you're a little better at interviewing than I am. I have a little too much fun. So
you did awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.